You on mute, Dante.
I had it muted. Yeah, he's quiet right now, which is what's funny. But welcome to the Black Man Unfiltered Network. It's the one-on-one sports show. I am Dante,
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Shawnee.
and we got a lot to talk about this week. I mean, it's interesting the way the NFL season is going, and where the NFC is in such a weird place. But basically the best two teams are in the same division, or you can make an argument two of the best teams because what San Francisco did was really impressive. But I actually, Johnny, I was going to start off with something that annoyed me, and I saw it. And sometimes I think people overreact, and sometimes I think they might be a little right. Like Vikings fans got really upset on social media, and rightfully so. They were an underdog to the Lions, but their team didn't take that disrespect and come out and prove it because they won a lot of close games. They got lucky in a lot of games. Like that Buffalo game was luck. Josh Allen fumbles a snap. It just pure, lucky stuff. And so, and then like they showed the next week, Cowboys smacked them 40-3. Well, then you come out, you're 1-point underdogs, and you let the Lions go out and just handle business. And so the point I was making was Jared Goff was 27-39, 330 yards, 3 touchdowns. Just actually killing it. No interceptions. Looking here, no fumbles either. And he's a big fumble guy because if you don't remember, his hand size was something they talked about, which is but it's a thing that he fumbles a lot when he gets hit. So it's kind of like some of those little things do make a difference, but I'll get on that when it gets draft season. The point I wanted to make was, do you think that was a good enough performance for Offensive Player of the Week in the NFC?
For Jared Goff, I gotta really think about it, especially for the NFC, because the ones that come to mind, you got Jalen Hurts.
Yep. Keep going. I want you to guess who got it.
Say Jalen Hurts. That should have been not Purdy.
It wasn't
Purdy. I'm trying to think.
Wait, I'm gonna give Jalen Hurts numbers for the people so they can see. Jalen Hurts was 21-31, 217, 2 touchdowns, no INTs. He did chip in 77 rush yards and a rushing touchdown. So 3 total scores. Pretty good week. But I will say this, and I'm gonna save a lot of the Jalen Hurts talk when we get to the Cowboys stuff. Well, some of it, Jalen Hurts is basically in Vegas right now, the front runner for MVP. And for those that don't want to put much stock into that, Vegas gets a lot of things right. Who was it that won the Heisman? Caleb Williams won the Heisman, and he was the front runner. Even though he lost that game, he still had a phenomenal season. Even if you put his numbers up, I was debating with my boy about him and Max Duggan. And I was like, nah, bro, he had a better season. But, yeah, man, he had a fantastic game. But I think it's kind of like, man, he's playing so good. It's kind of like when you win MVP a lot, it's hard for you to get it again. And but the answer is the person that won.
I'm trying to look at the scoreboard now.
Okay, go ahead.
And only one is, I can tell by the lines. And actually, I was looking at the lines. The Lions almost won, 5 games in a row? Almost. It was just a close loss against the Bills that messed up that streak. So now they on like another 2-game winning streak.
Yeah.
I can't even see. I'm just right now just looking at the scoreboard and just trying to guess who had a big game in the NFC alone, because the Cowboys, they definitely didn't have a good game.
I'll give you a hint. They had a 98-yard drive to win the game.
You talking about they gave it to Dak Prescott?
No, they gave it to Baker Mayfield. They gave it to Baker Mayfield.
And he didn't even start the game.
22 of 35, 230 yards, and the game-winning touchdown drive. And he was only in L.A. for 48 hours.
Yeah. No, I definitely didn't think of that. I definitely didn't think of that one. I mean, like I said, he didn't even start the game. I guess that's good for Mayfield. I guess he's good at knowledge. I used to be high, well, not super high, but I used to be high on Mayfield coming out the draft because I liked the moxie that he had in college. He he was always going to be there for the fight. But one thing you cannot determine for a quarterback making that transition from the college game to the pro game is what goes on in between the head. And unfortunately, you saw he only had one good season with the Browns. Didn't even play a full season with the Panthers before they got rid of him. And now he's, coming up with the Rams. And he may just, I guess his last hope is Sean McVay to help him out. But yeah, Mayfield may just have to start his career as a journeyman, either as a journeyman or just get settled and have a relatively long career as a backup. I don't know how, like I was saying while you was dealing with your technical stuff, how he was coming out of college. He was coming out of college, and I had like relatively high hopes for Baker Mayfield.
You did?
But one thing, yeah, look, I like this moxie coming out of college. He was gonna be in the fight. He wasn't gonna. You ain't gonna shake Mayfield. He was gonna be there in the fight, and he was a gamer. He just stepped up to the bigger games. But a lot of things that you can't do. You can look at the tape and all you want when it comes from college to pros. One thing you just can't do is
it's at that heart.
How can they decipher NFL defenses? That's the biggest thing. No matter how athletic you are in college, no matter how much highlights you have in college, it's when you get to the NFL defense, because the windows and everything is just so smaller and it's just so a faster pace. How can you just notice the defense? How can you just interpret everything at a faster rate? And I guess that's the main thing with Mayfield, because he has like the physical tools.
Yeah,
he has a strong arm. He's accurate.
He's got in
between the ears is different.
He's got enough, and in between the ears, and how guys treat you and how you are around other guys. Like I will say, remember that playoff game they should have won against Georgia? That they gave up the lead because the defense just was bad. I remember the Georgia defenders, and might have been some notable guys, was like, he's got to humble himself. He's got to humble himself. And that's the thing. You can tell how a guy leads men. I will say that, but that doesn't always translate to if you don't have the physical. Because the most impressive thing, and I know he's in a crap job, so I will give him some props right now, because it just sucks that it's kick Russell Wilson in the ass right now. That's just what the game of the day is. But when he switched from North Carolina State to Wisconsin, new guy, he was the captain within like a week. And it was just like, wait, what? He just got here. But then he also led him to the Rose Bowl. So it's just one of those deals to where, and then he went on, took the job in Seattle, and before it soured. What's going on? What's going on, Andre? We got the topic for you. We get into them Eagles later, man. I want you to listen to what we saying. Don't just jump down my throat with what I say. But I'm showing love. I'm just gonna say that. I'm gonna show some love, even though I don't want to. But it's just one of those deals. Like, you never know how guys are gonna go. Like, I like Jared Goff. Like, picking quarterbacks is a crapshoot. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I've evolved on my thinking. I thought when I saw Carson Wentz, North Dakota State, I was like, they just seeing the physical tools and they going with that. Now, true enough, it started off great and it ended bad. But I like Jared Goff more. Some people like Goff more. Some people say, but it's like Goff is a guy that has limitations. And what we should have known is the key to stopping him was doing something late in the snap. When he has the headset and he could talk to McVay, he was fine. He could dissect and do whatever. When that mic turned off and the Patriots changed their defense, they gave you the book on how to stop Jared Goff.
I like Carson Wentz coming out of school myself. I remember, because it's always going to be tied together, Carson Wentz and Dak Prescott, because they're in the same draft.
Yeah.
And I was like, because I remember how Carson Wentz was coming out of North Dakota State. Dude had the physical tools, like legit. Carson Wentz was playing basically how Josh Allen plays.
Yeah.
That's how they was playing, but that dude, not only it's just his deciphering of the defense, and then once that sort of threatened his production on the field and his playing time, his leadership just fell off. And dudes, he just wasn't motivating dudes no more. And it's no different right now. I know with Wentz, you can tell, because obviously now he's in the same boat as Baker Mayfield. But what we was talking about with Baker Mayfield and his leadership, I guess they both better than currently with Zach Wilson. Zach
Hey,
Wilson, he just, I
that
mean, he's in his second year,
second
and
year, and
damn
they
near the
almost
team
giving
almost
up.
looked like they gave up on him because just how he just don't have no respect anymore. I'm like,
Yeah,
damn, dude.
and you know what's Jenny? That's funny. What it is, he keeps dropping his keys. He got these little keys, and he keeps dropping them. He wants me to get them every time. But you ever hear those whispers about people around the draft, and you think that's just scout BS? What I will tell you is what I'm learning over time. These personal conversations that they're having with guys and what they've seen. Like, I know a guy that went to my high school when he was older in my generation, but he came back and talked to us, and he said he was just showing us the importance of like talking to people and doing the right things because he said they were looking at him and they went to one of his classes one day and he was like, that was the day I was at class. They was there. They go back and talk to old coaches. They go and they get they work on you. They have like so many people. They have like ex FBI people to pull up dirt on you. That's how they
Hmm.
find all the stuff. They try to unearth everything. And so one of the things about him was rich, entitled, and what was that? You score 3 points offensively. Do you feel like you let your defense? No. And I was like, that sounds like a rich brat. That sounds like a rich little brat. And everybody said that some of the black commentators were overreacting. And it was just like, nah, some of the things they said were absolutely true. And that's why they pulled him for a guy in Mike White that was drafted by the Cowboys, late round pick that has physical tools, but he have a great day, didn't have a bad one. And Buffalo just tore him up last week. But the development of the quarterback and how that goes is so difficult. We were Josh Allen, nobody saw that coming. Now there were scouts that was like his arm strength would help him in Buffalo, and then scouts get drunk on big, strong, fast, big arm. They get drunk on that. If you check all the boxes, like Bill Parcells used to have the boxes of what he wanted the end to be, what did he want every position, and guys still get drunk off of that. Guys get drunk off of speed, and it just happens. Sometimes guys are just a good football player, and it's like you have to look at that. And sometimes your size, you won't be able to play at the next level as effectively. Some guys will. Like I think off the top of my head, Elvis Dumerville went to Louisville, was a
Hmm.
pass rusher, could work with his quickness. He had enough strength. He could work. He was 5'11". Now you get guys all the time now, like more people that quarterbacks are small. And even though Kyler Murray is not really working out the best right now, but you had Drew Brees at, 6 foot on his tippy toes. You got guys that can make it if they can play ball because, it's just about what situation you in, what system you're in.
And
And I
and
know,
that's the thing about the Texans because they got the potential number one overall pick, and it may be Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud.
that's my guy,
I
Bryce.
I don't know the size difference between the two. 'Cause I know Bryce Young is barely what he's barely
6 foot,
6 feet, and C.J. Stroud I
180.
don't know how his height is compared. 'Cause you always hear about Bryce Young, his size or lack thereof. I guess he's on the smaller side as a QB, and he's mobile. I don't think he's Deshaun Watson mobile because Deshaun Watson was just so elusive. And but I think going back to what you were saying about it has to be the system because it's all about the system, and that's
Hey,
when we get
Stroud
to the
is
Cowboys Eagles thing. That's the main thing I'm gonna talk about. But what's you got the measures on Stroud?
6'3", 218 is what he's listed as.
Okay, so Stroud is more of a I don't want to say prototypical because usually they be taller. They tall.
Well,
They
6'3" is the box check. 6'2"
yeah
is like, okay, you cool. But once you're 6'3" and up, and then like he's 218, they're thinking, okay, he'll gain a little weight or whatever. He's
yeah
he's the right size you want. And the thing is, while they worry about the smaller quarterbacks, even at 6'3", your guards and your centers sometimes is between 6'3" and 6'5". So still, when they going back and he's back there, he's having a tough time. So the little guy, the smaller, like they said, a lot of times Drew Brees knew where the golf was gonna be, but he's like, I couldn't really see. It's like boom, you slinging darts. But it's like God, they've been smart their whole life. They know how to deal with it. Just
yeah
like,
because dudes in college they coming from D1 schools, so their line
yeah,
is pretty much the size of an
yeah,
NFL lineman. Only thing
yeah,
that's different is just the skill set, but
skill level.
the
And
height and stuff is
yeah,
already there.
And for me, Bryce Young, he may not be what like Deshaun Watson or guys like that, or even guys more mobile than Watson, but that play he made was going on. Marcus, appreciate you tapping in. When you that to play against Texas,
Appreciate the
he's
love,
going
lost in
down.
translation.
What's going on? Well, he's going down. Appreciate you, bro. Well, he's going down and his knee almost touches, gets out of that sack and makes the play. I'm like, you're going to need that's translatable to the next level. You're going to have big guys getting after you, but if you can be slippery, you can move in the pocket and you can have a bad game and come back and win, just like, a la what the Cowboys did and other good teams, like, what is it, the Eagles. They played with the Colts the whole game. Jalen Hurts came down and won it at the end. If you've got that ability to do that, then you can make it at the next level. I just want to see what the arm strength is because the arm strength does matter. It does pick you up different places. But my thing is, as long as you have enough,
You
like
see that with Tua, because Tua's whole thing was his arm
got,
strength.
got
His arm
enough.
strength, and that was. I remember I was having a debate with somebody. I think I brought it up here. I don't know if you was gone or not, but I was who was having a more impressive season between Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes, because since Tyreek Hill went to another team, and many people were saying it was Patrick Mahomes, and I was looking at Tyreek Hill because the numbers that Tua was starting to put up, because Tua was an afterthought pretty much as a quarterback. People, even his home coach, before they let him go, was actually looking for alternatives. He was really hoping when Watson was going through his thing with the Texans, Flores was really trying to find some avenues to bring Watson
Uh,
to Miami.
let's be real. Can we say the organization? Because that's why the owner got in trouble. They was trying to get the Brady, Sean Payton combo, and you hear the coach saying, "We want. I wanted Herbert." And then so that game, like I'm a big Herbert guy. Like as far as draft, like I told a friend of mine, excuse me, we're gonna start writing and documenting down who picked who to pick because it's like it's one thing like to pick a running back. Like that's easy to see. Bijan Robinson, it's like okay, that's easy. Finding an unheralded guy or finding a guy, guys like the quarterback position because it's so tough to judge. That's what I like to do. And I saw Herbert when I was working. And I worked the whole day. I worked college game day, and I worked at AT&T on when they came to play Auburn. Back when we thought old boy for Bo Nix was gonna be the truth. And I saw him up close, and I was just like, yeah, I see what they're talking about with him. He's got the size, he got the athleticism. He was playing against the SEC defense, so I'm like, this is closer to what you're gonna see in the league. And I was like, he's competing with this. They probably should have won the game, but didn't. And I was just like, yeah, I kind of started buying the stock in. And as quiet as it's kept for a minute there, what was it, 17 and 18? That was the guy I wanted to replace that. But as we know, everything happened. It got turned around. Mari Cooper, the new contract and everything. But that was a guy I was like, hey, if we don't, that's somebody we might need to get. But it's so tough. It's so tough to see guys in certain different situations with coaching. Like coaching matters so much. Old boy from San
Yeah,
Francisco, he got Tua looking like, and now Tua does still the deep ball ain't good. But my thing is, I don't care how pretty it is. Can you get it there? And to see Tyreek Hill, if you would have told me before the season when we were talking, he was going to lead the league in receiving and they're getting him a lot of targets. It's amazing. I just so I would agree that he's having a better season because
that's why I
we've
say he has
we've
the more
seen the
because
best of Patrick
Mahomes is doing
Mahomes.
what he's always been
But
doing this whole time.
but the thing is, what helps Mahomes' MVP case is not having any dominant receiver, not having any one guy
Well,
other
he
than
doesn't have any dominant receivers, and if you look at their stats, they are looking like a non-elite receiver that he had. It's Kelsey who has stepped up tremendously. This dude, I mean, yes, Mahomes is doing what he's doing, but you look at the numbers that when Mahomes need a big catch, Kelsey. Mahomes need a touchdown, Kelsey. Mahomes needs this 10, 50, it's Kelsey, because Kelsey reads the defense from the tight end position like he's a quarterback.
yeah.
And you see that dude, he's almost like Jason Witten. Well, he is like Jason Witten as far as always finding, and Jason Witten didn't have the speed,
I
but
was
they
about to
always
say,
find
yeah.
a hole that stay open. Somehow, some way, that dude is always staying open. And if you look at the Chiefs receiving core, obviously Kelsey is the one. You be like, Man, in clutch moments, y'all need to locate him. He always seems to find a way that's open. So, and you can see his numbers for the touchdowns, the receptions, the targets. Yes, Mahomes is doing his thing, but Mahomes came into a situation where he had two, I guess, first team All NFL receiving options, and that was Hill and Kelsey. Hill went away. Now he's dependent more on Kelsey, but Kelsey is considered now, because I know it was between Kelsey and Kittle for a while, between the best tight end. But Kittle, the 49ers just asked Kittle to do a whole lot of blocking now. He doesn't really do a lot of receiving. He does a whole lot. So
and then he's injuries. But I'm looking at it now. I know Mahomes had a number of picks. I think he had 3 in the last game. But he's still leading the league with 4,100 yards passing and 33 yards rushing, and it's still impressive. And he definitely, with his picks and Hurts big game, he dropped an MVP place. I'll put him at 2. Allen is still up there because you know what Allen is, and we saw him the other night. Shout out to my co-host for the getting us to the Mavs game. But he's Luka. He's always the preseason MVP pick, and the writers want to be right, but it's like, I don't know, Allen, his play is kind of like, somebody pulled up the numbers, and it's tough when you do that. You can't really do quarterback wins, but you can say how important the quarterback is to winning. Like if you you don't knock Josh Allen for leaving 17 or 15 seconds left, and Mahomes led down the field. That's on the defense. That's not on him. He played well enough to win. That's why the quarterback wins gets tricky. Shout out to like someone like Mina Kimes that always says that. But if you look at Josh Allen's play the last couple of weeks, it's been some real that's not really good. And what I'll say is it's tough to compare how this team played against that team. But, Allen, somebody said, damn, did y'all just need a game-winning drive to beat the Lions? Now that the win doesn't look so bad now, that could be a playoff team. But at the time, it was still like, y'all supposed to,
I got something, because that's a lot of fans, I guess that's how they you can tell them until you blue in the face that the NFL is not college football. You have to bring it every single week. Them dudes are professionals. The only thing that separates the Texans from the Eagles, and you saw when the Texans play the Cowboys, yes, it's a talent, but they don't execute. And you saw when they had a chance to win that game, they didn't execute right there at the goal line. And you see the Eagles, they be winning, and even against, like you brought the point earlier,
the Colts.
They execute at the right. That's the main difference between a good team and a bad team.
And on top of that, it's crazy because all game, when Jalen Hurts runs, he follows the center. The center went off to the right. Jalen Hurts was straight up the middle. Execution. Like, I saw the play, and I was just like, because of course I was like, man, we're going to get a catch. We're going to get a game. They're going to come on. I was rooting for the Colts defense so hard, and they didn't come through, and I was like, right up the gut. I'm like, dang, bro. And it's one of those deals where it is, those guys are talented. Like Laramie Tunsil, first round pick, talented player. From Alabama State, Titus Howard, the right tackle, first round pick, talented player. Kenyon Green, who's struggling, first round pick from A&M. He's a guy I wanted the Cowboys to get. And that's one of those deals to where sometimes we gotta, as fans too, you can have your difference of opinion. But after this year, I'm gonna repeat it at draft time. I vow, unless the Cowboys take a guy that is ranked to go undrafted, like I saw the Raiders do that one time. Tommy B, don't kill me. I did just big up your Trojans. They picked the guy one time, and Mel Kiper was like, I mean, I got some notes on him, but at this spot, and it was like, ooh, it's like when you hear it, like everybody say something, that's a problem. But for the Cowboys going forward with their first round pick, I won't really question it anymore. Unless it's like a running back, which I'm kind of leaning toward maybe you should only take a running back in certain situations. Like if you are Detroit or you're a team that has a young quarterback or going to have one, and you have cap space and you can just spend it on that quarterback, running back, do that, have an amazing offense. And then you can make the contract talk in 4 years, 5 years. But Tyler Smith has worked out really good. He did hit the rookie wall though. That because playing against NFL talent, playing on Sunday, then playing on Thursday. And what is it? The 3 games in 12 days or something like that. That Cowboys always have to do with it. Sometimes it's more because they have been putting them on that Thursday night game, which really is terrible. It's like, bro, you killing the attrition of the team. But I like guys that can just come out and execute and be physical, be athletic. You have to be all of that, man. And like to see what the Cowboys messed around for 3 quarters, it was. And I texted my brother and I was like, this was a frustrating watch. Like I'll take the 10 wins, but my 3 hours of irritation was tough to take.
It was, and yeah, the Cowboys, because I do look at like a win is a win, but you got to look at the game, and the Cowboys didn't execute that game
at all.
And one thing I do see that gives the Cowboys fits the most now, and this was on a lower level as far as the player who was doing it. Cowboys struggle with mobile quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But one of the things, like, so after that game, and you know how people like to, think about the NFL, especially now that they added one more game, and now that the league is like the league is in the bottom quarter now. Mm-hmm. So these players, they all beat up and everything. The season is long and everything, and a lot of times fans were like, they try to judge the teams, I guess, I want to say how good they are based on a similar opponent. Oh, you played well at this versus this team, and you struggle versus this team. So I'm like, dude, that's
it's not the BCS.
It's not. Yeah, they prepared better, obviously during this game than the previous game, and they executed better. Because the Texans, for 3 quarters, they stuck to their game plan, and they was doing it. I mean, it's just when it comes down to execution. Driscoll, he had a read that he gave the ball to the running back when he should have kept, and he would have gashed the Cowboys. And then, of course, we're talking about the red zone after the Dak interception. So you can see it's just execution. But for the most part, they stayed within that game plan. They played that zone defense. Well, Dak's throws are getting tipped everywhere. I looked at, he had seven pass deflections. So they did what they did, well, and they gave the Cowboys fits. The Cowboys, before the game, it was all about, because they were saying that Driscoll was actually the Texas secret weapon. I don't think the Cowboys obviously showed. They wasn't preparing for Driscoll. They was preparing for Mills.
Yeah.
And they was talking about how they just going to just sack. Next thing you know, they put a mobile quarterback. They didn't get no sacks.
They didn't get any sacks, and then the way they was able to, they wasn't just gashing them in the run game. Like, Pierce was doing pretty good until he got hurt, but it was enough of a threat to where you kept it run, third and short. Run, third and short. It's tough, so it's third and short. I can get the ball out quick. And I will say Micah Parsons is somebody that needs to, he's quickly dropping out of the defensive player of the year race. He's dropping. He's got some big games of the last 4. He's got some big games that he can really show up against. But really it's 3 games. I mean, because how much are you going to play them against Washington? If they win another, better yet, I want to say if Seattle loses tomorrow, their playoff spot is locked in. And I don't see anybody catching them as far as being in that 5 seed. Like, it's basically, unless somebody catches the reeling Bucks, they are going to play Tampa Bay as the 5 seed. Philly, even if they beat them in next week, they're going to be the number 1 overall seed because of that other loss. And then they already have the tiebreaker against the Vikings. They're not going to catch them. And the Vikings look real susceptible. I wish it was almost like the NBA where you have all those games and nobody's really noticing if you drop a few, you drop back, and you scale your opponent. But, it's one of those deals in the NFL. Like, you're not going to do that. But I will say this, and I've seen it. I'm a guy that likes Dak Prescott, but I just think my thing is he's so polarizing because he's got talent, but it's also the fact that he's the Cowboys quarterback. Just like the quarterback before him was polarizing, and so on and so forth. The other guys in the middle, before Romo, wasn't polarizing because they just sucked. It just absolutely sucks. So you're not polarizing. It's just like, when are they going to get a quarterback? It's amazing that they take one in the first round. It's crazy. But just the fact that he can have the game-winning 98-yard drive, and all you want to hear is, "Oh, it was so close. This is bad." It's like, bro, if this is another team, and not even saying which team, or not even saying which opponent, if this is another team, and it's better yet, as long as it's a lesser opponent, give them credit for getting the job done and winning. I'd rather have a loss where I know a win that I learn a lot from. They be like, I can't play like that. And like they said on 105.3, they were like, hey, this is 3 straight weeks we've seen this. After your wake up call was supposed to be the Green Bay game, which that loss keeps looking worse and worse. But the Minnesota game was like, oh, okay, they for real. You can give them a slight pass for the Giants, but you can't give them because it was, the short week. Like, I know Tyler Smith struggled with that short week, and that helped with some of the offense not being as good. He gave up pressure after pressure, pressure after pressure. But it's one of those deals where you have to give them some credit, but you also have to give them a lot of criticism. And I appreciate, like, I saw J. Ron Kerr saying something, and Sean Sharif from 105.3 retweeted and was like, this has been going on for a few weeks. And it does kind of remind me a little bit like last year, where it's like things are kind of going in the wrong direction and you want to kind of get it together. So I will say this, Jacksonville is an interesting test, because speaking of quarterbacks and evaluations, he's a guy that is tabbed as that's the next great. And he's been billed that since he was in, high school, because he was the number one player. Justin Fields was number two. And so for him to finally turn it on, putting on big numbers, and he's mobile, so it's another test. Now, he's not Jalen Hurts mobile, but at his size, I will say his athleticism is not comparable. I'll just say it's a good test. If that was your scout team quarterback, that would help you playing against Hurts, if you practice all the plays that he runs. But the fact that you got a guy in Evan Ingram who's finally turned it around, had a big week last week. This is going to be a team that's ready to play. They're at home. And, of course, the Cowboys always got the bullseye on their back. I want to see how they respond to a piss-poor game, because the point spread was 17.5. So whoever put their money on the Texans, you might be mad they lost, but you cashed out.
Yeah.
Unless you went money line, which was foolish.
I remember that line, and I don't even bet, but I was like, damn, I know some people lost their money.
I'm not gonna lie. I thought about it.
But since we own them Cowboys, though, and I know the bigger topic we want to get at, was this whole Micah Parsons and Jalen Hurts, when Micah Parsons went on Von Miller's podcast, and when I guess when the question was brought up to him about Jalen Hurts and how he, MVP this season, he was like, is it Hurts or is it the team? And my whole thing is, it's funny. It is a funny thing, because you always hear football is always brought and I guess brought up as, or whatever, just broadcast as the ultimate team sport.
Yeah.
The ultimate team sport. Literally, one player, basketball, one player can get hot and dominate for a stretch. Baseball player, it's kind of two players, because you're going to have a pitcher that has to dominate, and then one player on the offensive side can hit a home run and win the game. But football, it's so, a quarterback can't do anything if the lineman not blocking for him. A quarterback can't do anything if the receivers keep dropping passes from him and all that. And many times, and I could see what Parsons was getting at, and you see it a lot of times with the quarterback position. For the ultimate team sport, a lot of people will praise QBs like they're doing it on their own. So now you're asking a professional football player whose main function on the other side of that football is to come after the quarterback, and he has to go through all the blocks and everything all the lineman is trying to do to stop him from getting to that QB. And then if you can't get to the QB, that's when all of a sudden the QB is getting these good numbers. He's like, okay, yeah, I mean, Hurts, he may be MVP, I guess, when you come to individual players, since we got to pick one. But when people want to make it look like it's Jalen Hurts versus the Cowboys or whoever, he's like, man, no, man, it's the Eagles.
Yeah,
Because I got to get through these dudes. If they not blocking me, I'm high in my skill set. If they not blocking me great, I'm gonna be making Hurts' life a living nightmare back there. So if they doing their job and keeping me from getting the Hurts, okay, then that's what allowing Hurts to do these awesome things that y'all are talking about right now. So I can see what Parsons is getting at. Now I know I saw some sports souls. I
they
think
running.
the
They
media, they blow this thing up about bulletin board material,
yeah,
and because Marcus Spears, who played NFL football, he's saying, yeah, it's talked about, but it's not nearly as big as some people like. It's like I guess people see too much movies. How somebody may write something on that's all they
yeah.
do is just focus on that. But
It's not
nah,
that,
man, it's
and
it's it's a rivalry. It's a rivalry.
yeah, it's a rivalry. But like I heard in the '70s, that was something because the way media and information moves. So
Yeah.
yeah, that means a little bit more when I want to say they will bring it up when the Cowboys would play Washington. Or such and such said this about you when it's media day, and then it's like, oh, okay. I want to say that's one of the teams that's kind of credited for where that kind of came from. But I'll put it like this, because Philadelphia has an interesting relationship with how they feel about the Cowboys, and you just said what it was. It wasn't that big of a deal. Philly Inquirer, blood feud begins. That's what they start off with. Like this man came out with vitriol on his heart. So let me just read. He said, blood feud begins. Michael Parsons gives Jalen Hurts and Eagles another reason to hate the Cowboys. I will give you his direct comment. One of the parts that he said, is it Hurts or is it the team? He said, he said it's the team. He said, good offense. And then even Von Miller was like, yeah, the offensive line is top notch. The tackle, what's his name? Jordan Malata, he said Michael Parsons should worry about the Cowboys. That's what he said, but the man was asked the question. So he's that comment, just seeing that clip, that seems chippiness, but I didn't read the full comment. But if you read Michael's full comment, where he said the offense, the defense, or Von Miller was like the offense, the defense, the quarterback, the weapons, and then of course he was repping his Penn State guy. He was like Miles Sanders, who's having a career year, who just dropped
Hmm.
144 on the Giants. Yes, they have a complete team. So I'm gonna break it down even further. Not hating at all, but what I am is bringing up points.
That's the
The
thing. You
Eagles,
asking a professional football player
football
that, so they're
player,
gonna go through the details.
these
The media
details.
is just stuck on. They just put a spotlight on one piece and turn a blind eye to the whole moving parts that it takes for that one piece to operate.
Yeah,
You asking a football player who is currently actively playing? No, they the ones who got to go through these stages to get to
mm-hmm.
this person.
Person.
So yes, they
Yeah,
gonna look at the game a whole. They gonna look at the game the correct way.
and the bigger part that I heard from Parsons was this. He was like, I'm such a fan of the game. You can say, and I know Dallas radio was kind of insinuating that he was still kind of still taking a jab, but not saying it, like inching up to it. He was like, he said, I can't just sit back there and be quiet. Like he was kind of, which would make you think like he was like, y'all giving him too much love. But he did make a point. Miller said he said credit, quote, saying it's a little bit of both. Parsons doubled down again, saying it's system and team. Because if you look at it, and then people, of course, the fans did what the fans supposed to do. They showed the clip of Micah getting ate up in the read option and doing this and doing that, and and everybody's like, yeah, he's coming, and they gonna come and they gonna get him. And I was like, bro, y'all got a whole nother game to go,
Yeah, that's
and
what I'm about to say.
there's more of an obsession. Like the one thing I think that gives the Cowboys always an edge, and not just saying this as a fan, as fans, we do get hyped up for when we play them. Because like I've worked at the games, and it's more juice when you play Philly. Other teams, yes, I'll say Philly since I worked there, the Philly and the Saints proximity. The proximity of you right here, you've lived here for how many years, but you from Louisiana or you moved and y'all really fans for real, it gets real chippy, but it's also you still my homie. So it's like, yeah, we're gonna talk shit, whatever. But just the fact that Philly has this complex of it's Dallas week. Or what was the Nick Sirianni? It's Dallas week. He endured himself to the fans saying that. And everybody in Dallas media is like, you know what it is this week? It's week 7, or whichever week it is. It's not Philly week. It's not, yeah, we excited about it. We know we played them that week. But you putting their name on the marquee like it's that week, that already gives them power. And it's just one thing that if it's college, I get it. What is it? Ohio State, I love it. They X out all M's, even on the ATM. That's college. That's gimmicky. That's cool. That's what you do. This is the pro, sir. You're getting paid. Just come out and win. Come out, prepare and win. So bulletin door material, all of that. I'm not with it.
Hell, the
He
team
literally
that
told me
probably
that
having the biggest bullet board material is the Jaguars. They're like, hey man,
we right
we
here.
right, we still we y'all gotta see us first.
Yeah, y'all gotta see us. Y'all
And
gotta
we
come and give
already
all.
know, we already saw how y'all wasn't on your P's and Q's against the Texans.
Yeah,
You know, if y'all haven't, fixed this thing,
got a
it's
new
not out
right
the
tackle.
realm that we can come and, y'all come to our house once.
Yeah,
We can, beat you. We're gonna, especially if our quarterback is starting to the way it's looking like now. Because I put the first year of Lawrence, that's a wash. If
because we had a
anything,
bum
from a
coach.
professional quarterback, that first year was a wash. His coach was screwing him over. But now you're starting to see Lawrence putting some good games together. And
Yeah,
the Cowboys secondary
Take-
starting to get a little bit
taking hit,
thin.
taking hits, and and,
So
and I want to mention a few things because I try not to be this person, but I want to mention this part about Parsons. He even said when he was talking about it, quote, direct quote, I'm not trying to make no enemies because Von Miller kind of was just like, y'all about to play them in a few weeks, huh? He was like, I'm not trying to make no enemies. He just mentioned that, hey man, as much as I love the game, like I study the game, he's telling you, I'm studying this. Like the dude is good, but this complete team, both the tackles are good. The center's a former All Pro. Like you got All Pro caliber center and right tackle, left tackle Pro Bowl, really good guys. The guards are good. One of the guards, what is he from Bama? Was a highly rated guy. Like you have like a complete good all five guys. There's really no weak link except for maybe you could say Landon Dickinson is the weak link, maybe. But you got a really really strong front five up front. You got running backs. You got a quarterback that you have to account for in the running game, which is special in his own right. So that's all him. But you also have the line, like we mentioned, the play where he scored, where on Kelsey, peeling off, and you got Devontae Smith, first round pick, AJ Brown, first round pick. You got Dallas Goedert, who's hurt right now, but is a damn good tight end. And that's another thing. I remember the Eagles traded up to get Dallas Goedert, thinking, yeah, we snatched from the Cowboys because that's the week that Jason Witten retired. And it was just like, y'all be so obsessed, it's crazy. You probably could have stayed where you was at, but that's another topic. But one thing I just want to say, and I know I deal with this on Facebook, and I try not to like call people out on stuff, but two things. I wish we had the show when the Jacksonville Jaguars hired old Urban Meyer, and I was just like, from what I heard about him, first of all, his nickname is the Urban Liar, and you can't go in there lying and BS and grown men, and the stuff that he did, the shenanigans he pulled was crazy. But I remember people thought little stuff like him hiring that racist coach, that coach that was accused of racist things, and
mm-hmm.
you hired him in a room that's 70% black men. And you thought that was gonna go over well. People was like, well, it's not. And then the Tebow thing, just giving him a job. And it was just like, you can't do that with grown men. And I remember people saying it's not that big of a deal. And then you saw he did not make it to the end of the year. And I was just like, bro, things like that matters in the locker room. Nick Saban, the hate to say it, but the GOAT, the college football GOAT. He came in there with that college BS, and I can't remember who it was that was about to fight him. Like you can't treat grown men like that. And that's one thing I had to get off my chest. But like another thing, as far as I remember someone told me, I had posted in my Facebook group about man, that signing Peters isn't a solid move. And the dude was like, Peters is past his prime, he's this, he's that. He didn't even, I was like, you do know he played 16 or 17 games last year. And like I'm not saying that he's the old Peters, but he's useful as far as depth. And I told the guy, I think I told him, can't just paraphrasing myself. I told him, bro, if Josh Ball gets into the game, that's something we don't want to see. He can't play against backups in preseason. Lo and behold, both the plays were sacked. That guy fumbled, and threw a pick. He let the guy get back and get the pressure. It was Josh Ball, and they pulled him. I saw Dak talking to him on the sidelines, and I was like, they about to pull him. I was like, I don't need any more context other than Dak is like, I need you, bro. 98 yards. He let him down, and it's just like, hey, bro, I don't know everything, but I know a little bit, and I can tell. For me, I know it's dramatic. His key card wouldn't work no more. His key card would not have worked. I would have let him take a shower, and it was just like, hey, bro, come on. I would have let him. I've been taking a shower last. Let me get your playbook. It's at the home, FedEx it. Because we done. We're done here. We're done. Like
And you
that.
might as well. They're gonna have to look at that position to address it again in the draft.
Actually, they're gonna have to sign a stopgap guy because I will say this: he looked about as bad as his name is slipping me right now. He's played so good. I'm Terrence Steele. Terrence Steele is the one. If you look at that Myles Garrett clip in 2020, yeah, that was Terrence Steele. But because the team was so bad, he got to play all those games. We're better. We don't have time unless Dak gets hurt. God forbidden that Josh Ball can just play and get better. We don't have time for that. And he's another guy that what you see is what I will say as far as a draft take. The tackles that can make it and can't, it's the physicality. In college, you're more physical than them guys naturally. But over here, you have to be stronger. Terrence Steele wasn't strong enough when he started. He worked his butt off. I think he won the weight room award. And he worked his butt off, so he had the athleticism, but he didn't have the strength. That's why he went undrafted. Josh Ball, he was a guy at Florida State. He had a domestic violence case where he beat up his girlfriend, alleged, and all that kind of stuff. And then he had to drop down to Marshall. He was highly recruited, but he didn't, he dropped down and he didn't get that strength when he needed to at Marshall. So when he got hurt last year, they was like, well, he's gonna have to work all off season. Still too light in the britches, as they would say, as one of my coaches would say. And he's a guy that he just doesn't have it. So I'm thinking that from what I'm hearing, your offensive line might be Tyron Smith at the left tackle. I hate to say it, but they might put Connor McGovern, even though they should put Tyler Smith at left guard, Tyler Biadasz, Zach, and then right tackle Jason Peters. Hopefully he can, because if he can come in off a couple of snaps, he can practice all week and play right tackle. It's just that if Josh Ball has to get back in, because Jason Peters is, long in the tooth, but he has been playing, and it's one of those deals that's weird. He's been playing in and out, so it's not like he's just been sitting cold turkey. So he's gonna be able to come in and play and produce because they're gonna need him this week against Jacksonville because they got some guys that can play. They got Josh Allen, the defensive end, and they got the quietest first overall pick, Trayvon Walker. We just don't, or because he plays for Jacksonville, we just don't hear about.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I will say, if I look at his statistics, I bet you they aren't good because somebody posted Aiden Hutchinson's pick. I know a guy that's a crazy Lions fan from Detroit. And he's beating his chest right now, as he freaking should. As bad as they've been. But he was like, Trayvon Walker only had like one or two. Him and some other people combined didn't have the numbers that Aiden Hutchinson had. But I did hear that Trayvon Walker had a lot of different roles to play at Georgia. So he's just now playing just edge. And I'm thinking year two is the year normally where you get the gap. Other than the Michael Parsons and the Nick Bosas of the world. Year two is your jump, whereas those guys, year one was their jump. So I want to see how he looks just because that's a guy that could threaten, especially if they put him, now I ain't as worried about a future Hall of Famer in Peters, or I'm not as worried about, hey, Tyron Smith coming back. But it is something to observe. Can the Cowboys handle a team that maybe the running back runs a little more read option? I'm not sure if Travis Etienne is healthy, but another guy to have to stop in the running game because it's still a question mark. It hasn't been as bad, but these next 2 weeks, especially against Philly, you're going to have to stop the run if you want a chance. And I still say that the only way is, and I will admit it, because I know I just mentioned and I played it even keel about what Parsons said, but I will say Jalen Hurts is the MVP right now, but you do have to give credit to his entire team. But I've never seen a guy with a team that wasn't at least decent win the MVP. This isn't baseball where your team can win 50 games. Or what was it? A-Rod won like maybe 70 games and won MVP because it's an individual award. Like Shawnee just said, man, it is a complete team sport. So you're not going to win MVP unless you win enough. We see that in basketball. We just saw Luka ball out. But if they don't get, if they not, 15 games over 500, he ain't going to get no MVP consideration. As much as I hate to say it, that's going to be Jason Tatum. Right as of right now, I know it's a different sport, and we can get back to football. That's the way my Lakers.
I was just going just going basically looking at the news and just different stories that's going on in NFL right now because it's several stories. You got the I I can't remember seeing a team that came in with so much hype because they made a huge trade and this quarterback just done fell completely off. Russell Wilson, when he got his concussion, he looking knocked out all on the ground, glazed all over. One player that really, because I remember during the off season that he was really going about, trying to get his money, and that's Debo Samuel. Because you
Yeah,
remember in the off season, his main thing that why he was wanting his money to increase was because how the 49ers use him. He said, you got me doing this, this, and this. That's adding potential wear and tear on my body. You got me, and that's how he got hurt. You got me running through the tackles. I'm getting hit by dudes twice my size. So I need to get paid like that. I don't mind doing it. And he say he even was training for the bigger impact and all that stuff, because he want to use him as a receiver or running back. That's his slash. But he said, okay, pay me like that. And thankfully he got his money this past off season.
he,
And
yeah,
I forgot how his contract broke down because he got guaranteed, I believe, 50 plus million. And thankfully he got it because you saw now he's out for the season with a torn ACL. I forgot
no,
the exact injury.
I think they said they got good news on him. He'll be back in a few weeks, but it's still the fact that
They got real good news for him then, if
yeah,
that's the case.
yeah, it's just the fact that he literally was a guy that already struggled with injuries, and then you losing him like this, and it's just like, yeah, that's smart to get your money before you go back out again, get hurt, and then get the market. Everybody is not gonna do what Tampa did for Chris Godwin and just still give you the deal. Everybody's not gonna do that.
Yeah, even
If,
I know it's a different position, but even the Cowboys with Dak, after he still got his big money
yeah,
contract. But that's a different position. That's a quarterback. At that time, they already labeled and knew that was going to be their franchise quarterback. So that's
yeah,
different.
and the fan point that you knew, even with him playing and trying to play really well, because the other side of the ball was so struggling, he was keeping you in it. And as soon as you dropped him off, you fell. The bottom fell completely out, and so that showed his value, and that forced that. Hey man, at some point, Stephen Jones is going to have to win a contract negotiation. At some point, he's going to have to win one, and he's not winning any. But yeah, they said he has Samuel got the MCL sprain and ankle sprain,
Oh, okay, he got a sprain.
and they
Okay.
said he's gonna
So
miss
it's going
like
to be
3 weeks.
interesting to see if he can make it. I don't want him to rush because you just don't know how that stuff
I
is.
wouldn't I wouldn't play him. I would practice him, but play him
What is
if I
it?
want to play him in the last game just to keep him loose.
Four more games left?
Yes, 4 games left. Everybody
Yeah.
has played 13
And they
because
going and where the 49ers is, they the Seahawks are giving them a run, so they gonna need to win
they're
several
gonna.
games of these next four
Matter of
games.
fact, let me see who they playing because the Seahawks are tailing off. The Seahawks, the drill is coming out like the Panthers beat them, just beat them at
Yeah,
home,
Panthers are
and
almost Panthers are almost in the same boat as the Texans, man. They got rid of all their key players, so they just playing, but they're actually still
winning.
winning. The
Yeah,
Texans, they that's a whole another
I
thing.
will say the only thing that really hurts the let me see the Seahawks here. They got wow. Speaking of Debo Samuel, they play tomorrow. They play the Seahawks
That's
in
right. That's
Seattle
why I
tomorrow.
just saw that. Yeah, 49ers and
Ah,
Seahawks tomorrow. That's gonna be a
that's
big
huge.
game.
I, I'm man. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna lie. I get in a weird way. Even if the 49ers don't win the division, if they drop low enough, it could work out for them still.
If they
You know,
drop low enough, so if the season, I don't want to say in NACA right now. So right now the Cowboys are in fifth seed.
fine.
They'll be a fifth
Yeah.
seed. 49ers,
Or they're
well,
the
if they
3 seed.
win, they will be the third seed if they win a
Yeah,
division.
Yeah, they're the third seed. They're the third seed right now. So
If
I
they
got the play.
lose
I
that
got the playoffs
division,
pull up.
they'll be
Yeah,
the sixth seed.
yeah, and then they would be the sixth. And then
Well,
I
I
would.
can't. Well, I can't say that because they got a matching record. Well, if they lose, they'll be going with the Giants. I think they both will have 5 losses.
That's but what I'm saying with that is the Giants would get the tiebreaker because they have a tie. They have a non-loss. If they drop down to 7, they would kill the Vikings. They would kill the Vikings. I'm
It's
talking
seven. It's 7 or 6 teams going into the playoffs this year.
7. Remember they
Oh
added
hell.
the extra team. Yeah, it's 7. So if you go, that's why it's only one bye. So it's 2, 7, 3, 6, 4, 5 that play, and the one gets the bye. And as of right
Yeah.
now, you
I
got
still
as
think
the
it's
3
6.
seed. San Francisco's the 3 seed. They would play Washington. Defensively, that would be a defensive lover's dream and an offensive guy's nightmare. Other than the fact that you still got Christian McCaffrey and hopefully a healthy Debo Samuel. 4-5 would be Tampa versus Dallas, which you still got the Brady magic factor. That's why the Cowboys need to come out and put their foot on their neck early, because and then 2-7, if they can hold on to it, you got the Giants against the Vikings. The Vikings are the most susceptible. But that's why I'm saying if Seattle comes out and Geno Smith outplays Brock Purdy, which isn't crazy to believe at all, if he comes out and outplays him and leads his team to a victory, which I know the 49ers are a complete team. So the quarterback, like, basically, it's an interesting thing to say. You can say that this Kyle Shanahan system is built for a bad quarterback to thrive in. That's one thing you can say, but it's also weird to say because everybody doesn't think much of Kirk Cousins. But Kyle Shanahan has always said Kirk Cousins is the perfect quarterback to fit my system. And he's literally the only person other than Kirk Cousins' daddy to ever say that. Like nobody has ever, or his high school coach, because he was, the best player there. But
That's Kyle Shanahan. I've seen his
that
work up and close.
Kyle Shanahan, that's such a weird thing. And I've heard Bomani Jones say it a million times. Like, why is he the perfect quarterback for your system? Like, I know that Kirk Cousins gets too much grief sometimes, but it's just like, why is he the perfect guy for your system? When it literally is shown that when things aren't always all perfect, he's not really able to give you everything he can. Or if it's a game that you really need, probably can't get it for you. But if it's against a subpar team, I got you. Ball out. So that's a weird thing. And so that's why I was saying, like, if they're able to beat them and Seattle's able to rise up, but I would say at this point they would have to lose 2 straight. They'd have to lose 2 straight, and if they lose 2 straight, I think they would switch places and maybe drop down to probably 6 or 7. It's still a team that can win in the playoffs because their defense is real salty. But it's just going out in the NFC, man. Basically, the best 3 teams, I would say, is the Eagles, 49ers, and the Cowboys. And it's just like you can almost dismiss the Minnesota. I need to see it. And Tampa, I know they have Tom Brady, but that looks like a 45-year-old guy playing quarterback. I know they got hyped over their comeback against the Saints, but then look at how they did against another team. They were getting blanked. They were getting blanked, man. Like,
the 49ers.
Yeah, against the 40. Like, it was just a terrible game, and it's like I'm so ready for Brady to retire because they're doing, like, I know he's played in the AFC a lot, but for them to have the clip of him walking around the stadium, hey, bro, he been in the league since 20-something years, bro. It's not really that big of a deal him playing in San Francisco, and he's from there. You can mention it, but showing the clip of him walking the field, and then you show up, you throw the score, and it's 28-0. Hey, man, I know y'all need material to talk about. Like, get something else. It was like you build it up the game of the week, and it was just a stinker. But
Yeah, they
that's
didn't
sometimes
do nothing that game.
that they didn't do nothing. And then looking at that's why that
He
was
just found a new person. The only thing Brady doing right now is just finding a new person to yell at every week.
yeah.
Whether it's his linemen, it's the refs, so somebody. He got to yell at somebody. That's all he's doing right now.
It's coming to an end, and that's the thing that sucked. That if the Saints win that game the other night, they was on a bye. I knew, like I told my friend when I thought the game was over, I was like, yeah. He was like, yeah, we got a bye next week. He a Saints fan, and I was like, and they play San Francisco in San Francisco. That's a loss. So I was like, when you come back off a bye, they'd be in first place. Because if you take that loss away, they were 6 or 7. They would be 5. They would be 5-8. They'd be 5-8, along with if they win their game. So with the Saints. So they, they'd have them for the division, and it's like, and then right now, what they play next? They play the Bengals. That's a loss. That's a loss. I mean, because I will say this, I'm a man that can admit when he messes up. I did pick the Ravens to win that division, but I thought it was gonna be a drop off from the Bengals. I thought it was real fluky what happened last year. I still stand on that, but I will say Joe Burrow's the guy, and they built a good enough team around him that they were able to withstand their best receiver going down, and they're still balling. That final game against the Ravens, you can almost lock that in that's going to be Sunday Night Football in Cincinnati, and hopefully Lamar Jackson is healthy. I know he is going to have a lot to say about it. If he loses that game. I can already hear Hink. I'm gonna have to go down to the basement and hear him talk about Lamar Jackson. But
well, we wanted to bring up something because I know we was talking about it earlier on the show, and how he has taken his game up, and that's Travis Kelce. And I was just randomly looking, and they were saying the top 5 receiving yards. Now this is just including just anybody who's catching the ball, receivers and tight ends, and hell, even running backs if they qualify. But they have number 1 is Justin Jefferson with 1,500 receiving yards so far. You got number 2, Tyreek Hill, 1,460. 3, Devontae Adams, 1,247. Then you have Stephon Diggs, number 4 with 1,239. And Travis Kelce is the 5th number. Like he has the 5th most receiving yards with 1,039 yards. So that just shows you how much has this dude has stepped his game up to be with these other receivers who are clearly the number 1 weapons for their respective teams. And I'm like, I know it's no knock on Mahomes, but this dude is like, okay, we lost a hell of a weapon with Hill. I'm gonna step my game up. And the thing is, I'm not even going to the touchdowns yet. If I go to the touchdowns, I believe Kelce's up there too. So that just shows you, just give that dude credit on how much his game is just.
Yeah.
And he was already basically a Hall of Fame tight end coming into the season. And like, damn, dude, you done step your game up to another level.
And now passing that 10K, I want to say 10,000 yards, excuse me, from a tight end, Jason Witten, many thought, Hall of Famer. Shannon Sharp, Hall of Famer. Tony Gonzalez, Hall of Famer. And I'm trying to think of the other one, if there's another. I couldn't remember it off the top of my. I was trying to remember them all, but you were absolutely right with him going to the Hall. But you want to stir up another old debate that Cowboy fans was jumping off the bridge about earlier in the year? 6th in receiving yards is A.J. Brown with 1,020. 7th is, man, that offense, Jalen Waller was 7th. Damn. And then in number 8, in the 8th.
Two of the top 10 receivers on one team.
And then at the number 8 spot is CeeDee Lamb with 961 for the Cowboys fans that were jumping off the ship.
I'll say that for my closing remarks. I'm going to say that for my closing remarks. Saying that he was
going to be that. And my thing is, I was worried, could he be number 1? But my issue is this. He's number 8. Amari Cooper is number 13. Imagine if that was on the same roster, you wouldn't have been chasing Odell. And it's just one of those deals to where the Cowboys got in their feelings. Now, they're not going to be punished for it, or will they be punished for it come playoff time? Because they did, like, for all the people that were jumping off the bridge, like I remember, what was it, the Colts game? They were playing the clips of 105.3 of the fans jumping off the bridge, and it seemed so bad. And if you were to put somebody in a coma, wake them up and show them where the Buccaneers are and where the Cowboys were, they wouldn't believe it. They absolutely wouldn't believe it. And it's just like, it's a crazy league, man. And I know we got closing remarks that are coming up. So, Shani, I'm going to let you go ahead. You sit that thought is fresh on your brain. Go ahead and give yours, because I'm still want to see where I'm trying to go with mine.
Okay, then. Hey, what's up, Mr. Bennett? Appreciate it.
Let me get on that.
Jason Witten. Oh yeah.
Jason Witten, Mr. Bennett. No, appreciate doubt. You. But he's a Hall of Famer. But what I will say is this: he's a Hall of Famer. But what I will say is this: he's a Hall of Famer. But what I will say is this: he's a Hall of Famer. But what I will say is this: he's a Hall of Famer. But what I will say is this: he's a Hall of Famer. But what I will say is this: he's a Hall of Famer. But what I will say is this: he's a Hall of Famer. But what I will say is this: he's a Hall of Famer. But what I will say is this: he's a Hall of Famer. But what I will say is this: he's a Hall of Famer. But what I will say is this: he's a Hall of Famer. But what I will say is this: he's a Hall of Famer. But what I will say is this: he's a Hall of Famer. But what I will say is this: he's a Hall of Famer. But what I will say is this: he's a Hall of Famer. But what I will say is this: he's a Hall of Famer. But what I will say is this: he's a Hall of Famer. But what I will say is this: he's a Hall Look at the Cowboys' all-time touchdown reception leaders, and you will see that Jason Witten is number 2, and Dez Bryant, who didn't play near as many years, is number 1.
Yeah,
And that's
that's
the
that
one.
Romo Bryant connection.
That's the one thing you can question him on. The other big time receivers, even in his era when they played. Oh, Antonio Gates, that's another one with 10K. Their touchdown numbers and their use as a weapon, they were more of the modern tight end. Witten was still the old school guy, but could still get a lot of yards because they was feeding it to him. They were yards after catch guys, big plays. But I mean, I know I could get flack because I'm local and saying that. Like, you can question Jason Witten's Hall of Fameness. But the other thing is, Mr. Bennett, when you get that Walter Payton Man of the Year patch and your numbers are good enough, Hall. Somebody else that's gonna make the Hall, that was probably just numbers aren't just amazing, but you don't or you wouldn't think of it, but the numbers are good. Calais Campbell, Man of the Year. Play with who all has he played with? He played with the Cardinals, Cardinals, Ravens, and Jags. Cardinals, Ravens, and Jags are his teams. He's going to make the Hall of Fame. Hey, no, we said back to the program. Hey, appreciate you checking us out. Appreciate the love, but Shiny, go ahead and get your final thoughts, bro.
Yeah, well, my final thoughts, we brought them up towards the end, and I'm gonna have to, because I look at the game, the full spectrum of the game, so I'll say I'm gonna have to give my apologies to CeeDee Lamb because the first 3 games, maybe really the first 2, because nobody really knew if he was able to carry the mantle as a legit number 1 receiver on his respective team on the Cowboys, and you saw, and I even brought the point was he was like Terrence Williams version 2. He'll make all these fancy catches, but seem to drop the routine catches, and which was true in the beginning of the season. Maybe he was playing with, just a lot of his mind trying to prove this, and then basically he just started, as the season went on, just got more natural. But now you seeing him coming up with big catches. He may drop one here and there, but it's not like at the rate he was. He is catching passes. The only way is maybe a questionable throw by Dak or defender gets their hand on the ball. But he is making big catches. He is making big catches at the key points of game, to move the chains. He is making nice yak moments, so he is showing himself now. I still like the Cowboys to go out and get, right now, a number 2 receiver. Because I don't think they need to go out and try to look for a number 1 to try to co-pair with Lamb. I like, let Lamb be your number 1 guy. He has went through the little fire, little 2-game fire, 2 or 3-game fire, and it's coming out. And so I'm like, yeah, I can be a number 1 receiver for this team. Because with the number 1 receiver, now you're going against the number 1 defensive back on the other side of the ball, and he has been doing that. He has been putting in work. So I'm like, hey, so my hat's off to CeeDee Lamb, man. At first I was like, I don't know if you can be a number 1 because he was just. And the thing about it, it was the same thing that was happening to Jamar Chase. He had the case of the drops
in the preseason.
The preseason, all of a sudden it just switched. He just, sometimes they just got, get this out their system or whatever, and they eventually will come to the player that you recognize them to be, what they was drafted for. And the thing about with Lamb, he's starting to catch the big catches, but Lamb's his biggest skill set, his biggest strength for him was his yak.
Yeah.
And that dude, he catch that ball, he can make something with it. He's special when he runs the ball. So my thing is, apologies to CeeDee Lamb for early in the season, because I say, man, this dude's not number 1 quarterback. I say, damn near he just be a number 2. Maybe he have to be a number 1B, and you have to find your number 1A. But now he is shown as the season progressed, and that's how I don't like to look at
early
stuff in a small. I understand that a regular season is going to have its ups and downs, Every game is a completely different challenge. So you can't look at one game and say, "Oh, the Cowboys, y'all playing like this," and think it's going to translate. Now, if you see a trend, oh, okay, now you can say, "Okay,
Yeah.
hey man, y'all need to correct this." But still, a team, and you hear Jean-Jacques Taylor say this all the time. A team needs to be playing their best football at the end of the season and not at the beginning.
Yes. And Nate
You
Newton
can
says that
struggle in the beginning, but as long as you playing your best football in the end of the season, that's really
that's what
all that
counts.
matters because that's what
Yeah.
goes into the playoffs.
And I'll piggyback and I'll make my point real quick. I'll say what they need is they need speed. And out the blue, they signed T.Y. Hilton this week.
Hmm.
And he's not as fast as he used to be. Obviously, he's older. We all get a little slower. Speed is the first thing to leave a man. But if he can, like they said, he's a good route runner and a good locker room guy. And he could be that third guy because Gallup is coming along. It could be something really interesting to see. And so, I mean, I know we're out of time for today, and I know we did get on the Cowboys and Eagles. We'll touch on it some next week because that's the week before the game, and and so it's a lot going on, and we're gonna touch on some of the Christmas games that's coming up on Christmas because the NBA is going on. It's if you look at the standings, it looks a little different than what you might normally see. But for everybody in the chat, man, I appreciate everybody coming in. Like, share, and subscribe to this channel, Black Man Unfiltered Network, man. We appreciate this platform, and it's the one-on-one sports show. And we'll see y'all next week, man. Peace.
All right, peace.